Tales of the Lorekeeper, Episode 11. There's Something Down Below. Written, voiced, and produced by JoJo Kaiser.
I never wanted that old house, you know. My grandmother left it to me, and I couldn't sell it while Dad was still alive. It was his childhood home, and while he and I never really got along, I couldn't bear to see him cry even more. I always wondered, though, why Grandma chose to leave it to me and not him. He said it was all right, and he still had the house he and Mom built out on the farm. And I was in college up the road, so I might as well have it. It was a manor, 3 stories tall with an attic and a basement as well. Now, when I first got the house, I remember trying to get into the basement to clean it out, but the door was steadfast locked. No amount of pushing and slamming seemed to budge the thing. Told myself I'd get some sort of expert out here another time, and looking back now, I wish I had done it sooner. Before, well, you wanted the whole story. Life in that house began for me on March 28th, 2017. I had moved all my stuff in and immediately thought about roommates. I mean, there were 5 bedrooms in the damn thing, plus the attic could have been a bedroom all on its own, but the house was paid for. And to be honest, I had a nice little gig playing the guitar down in a local bar a couple blocks away. I didn't need roommates, but it could also get pretty lonely in this big place, so I decided the best thing to do was to get at least one person, just one. I'd charge them like $300 in rent, and if the need came, I'd get another, but I took a couple months, but eventually I found someone. His name was Cole Matthews. He was a law student, tall and broad-shouldered with dark hair and these eyes that always reminded me of a horse. I know that sounds weird. They were almost pitch black, but so full of soul and yearning. You'd think I was in love with him, but I'm not. I'm straight. But I could see when a man is attractive, and to be honest with you, I think he knew I knew. But it was great. He agreed to the $300 in rent and took the bedroom closest to the second floor bathroom. I, of course, had the master on the ground, and we spent the next couple years hanging out after classes, talking about any and everything, and becoming close friends. Before I knew it, I was calling him my best friend. The brother I never had, and when Dad passed away in mid-2019, he was right there by my side as I cried in the hospital room. When I found out Dad left me on the farmhouse and the farm, he helped me draft up a contract to get it sold. He helped me move all my dad and my mom's belongings out of the farmhouse and into the manor, and I knew when it was all said and done, I'd want no one else to be there with me when I got married, had kids, and lived the rest of my life. In the summer of 2020, I got a job in IT using my degree. It was at this startup company, and there I met Phoebe Materson. In most of these stories, you hear about the guy looked at the woman and fell instantly in love, and this wasn't that. In fact, Phoebe and I didn't get along at all. We argued all the time. She always had some stupid problem with her computer, and I always had to take more time than necessary to fix it, because she would hover me the entire time, making inane suggestions and generally getting on my last nerve. I remember this one time I shouted at her, "Who had the computer degree and who had the useless sociology degree?" And that made her cry. I felt really bad about it afterwards. A couple days later, I went and picked her up some chocolates. I heard from a friend that that's what she liked. Left it on the desk as an apology. It took a while, but we warmed up to each other. She came over to the house for a few parties I occasionally throw. She met Cole, and her and him hit it off pretty well as well. After a while, she mentioned her lease on her apartment was coming up and she wanted a new place to stay. I offered her one of the bedrooms, no rent. I hadn't charged Cole rent in years, and at that point, and she was offered the same thing. She agreed and moved in the next month. From then on, it was the 3 of us through thick and thin. We went on vacations together, to bars, parties, the lake, picnics. You couldn't separate the 3 of us. I wish I could tell you I fell in love with Phoebe, but I didn't. I saw her the same way I saw Cole, like family. Someone I was close to. Someone I loved, but not like that. And she felt the same way about me. No, it wasn't me who fell in love with her. It was Cole. And man, did I see it almost immediately. Suddenly, he was looking after her the way a puppy watches its owner leave. He would randomly buy her gifts, stay up later than normal to talk to her. I could hear him in the living room as I laid in bed some nights. Of course, like I said, Cole is attractive, and before long, Phoebe felt the same about him. Soon they were all about each other, and soon my two best friends were leaving me behind to do things as a couple. I didn't mind, most of the time, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jealous at times. Still, when they got married in the fall of 2022, I was Cole's best man. I stood there and watched them tearfully say their vows, and I gave the speech. I loved them both so dearly. And after a while, I got used to the idea of the two of them together, and it wasn't long before Phoebe got pregnant. Then, a couple months ago, Phoebe was due soon, about a month away, and I was up with Cole making plans when we heard this rattling. It was coming from the basement door. I looked over at him and he shrugged. We had never, in the 5 years here, heard that sound before. I went down, tried to open the basement door, same as all the other times before, it wouldn't budge. I looked over at Cole and he went to try. He shoved it against it with his shoulder, and then I heard it. As if 1,000 voices were talking to me at once. Cole's eyes widened and I knew he heard it too. And above the voice and the mass whispers, we heard the words of a woman, old and cranky.
The child! Give me the child!
Cole's face went pale and he bolted up the stairs with me on his heels. As we were running away, I looked back at the basement door to see it burst open. No, not burst. It exploded. And from it a rush of wind as the voices got louder. We ran to he and Phoebe's room and threw the door in, only to see Phoebe. Well, let's just say the sight was something I'll never forget. She was cut open, and from the base of her neck to her waistline, straight down the middle, and her skin and muscles were spread out. I vomited hard and Cole screamed. Above the voices, I could hear his sobs. I looked back to see something I could not believe. It was my grandmother, my dear old grandmother, pale and blue and floating above the bed, a small, premature, and bloody baby in her arms. She looked at me, and she spoke no words, but I understood. The basement. Whatever was wrong, it had to be the basement. I struggled to my feet and I ran back downstairs. I entered the basement through the fierce wind and loud voices, and down there, I saw something I wish I had never had. There were bodies. Tons of them. Decayed and sliced up. Candles and symbols littered the walls with one large pentagram on the floor. And behind me I heard the whisper.
Your legacy, my grandson.
I whipped around so fast, threw my fist out, and I felt a cold chill as my spine as my fist went straight through the ghostly visage of my grandmother. I noticed something. She didn't have the baby. Her eyes lit up as she smiled and she looked behind me. I turned back around. The baby was in the middle of the pentagram, and that symbol started glowing a bright, ghastly red. As the voices grew louder and louder, my head began to hurt and I fell to my knees crying. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how else to react. As I heard the baby cry and the final gushing of blood, I felt it. The warm liquid splash against me as I heard the explosion, a fleshy, gross explosion. The voices began to quiet, and I heard a thud upstairs. I ran back, and there on the floor was Cole, dead, his neck snapped. I called the police. Told them I didn't know what happened, that I'd heard a loud sound and came to check. They ended up deciding that Cole didn't want to have the baby and murdered Phoebe before killing himself. They didn't know what happened to the baby. By the time the police got there, the basement door had repaired itself, and it was still too hard to open. I sold the house and left the city. I don't know if they ever investigated that basement. All I know is I hope whoever's in that house never has a baby. I watched from the window of the hotel room as the man who never told me his name walked out to the parking lot and get in an old blue Nissan. As he drove away, I sat on the bed, head in my hands. I've been doing this for so long, listening to the stories people feel they can't tell others. I've heard horrors of the supernatural and human. I wonder sometimes how the previous lore keepers handled this. My master, the previous keeper, never said if he let it affect him. I'm getting old, though. I need to start looking for an apprentice of my own. Someone else to start taking these stories before the nightmares kill me. The Lore Keeper is an anthology horror series that I write and voice and produce myself. If you're enjoying the series, it would greatly help me if you leave a like on the video and even comment down below what you like or what you dislike about the stories. It helps me out in the algorithms and helps gets this pushed to other people. And if you really enjoy talking about horror and other things like that, you can join my Discord linked in the description down below to chat with other members of the community. Other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you next week.